Here on the Awesemo Live Before Lock show. I am your old pal Emac, joined by one Chris Spags here. I'm just waiting for the little green light that says bad primary stream, and there it is. We are good, and clearly I've got your camera mucked up, so let me tweak that and turn this over to you.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Welcome. It's a Saturday slate here. A thrilling 5-game slate with one game also that we have to keep an eye on the weather for, I think, with that Pirates-Dodgers situation. But you know what? We're here for you guys. We are always here for you guys on the Awesemo YouTube channel. So subscribe, hit that notification bell, whenever we go live, because we are going to have content all holiday weekend. We are not leaving you alone to fight the mean streets of MLB DFS. We will be here for you guys. As Emac said, I'm Chris Spags, and we're doing it today. It's a little bit less of a madcap show than it was yesterday, Emac, unless you have 100 pizza rolls hidden somewhere.
No, I do not. Word from Josh, he said he just enjoyed a nice piece of salmon. I don't think he'll need sodium for the next week, but in any event, he's doing all right. We did have proof of life. He was messaging various of us throughout the night. But boy, towards the end there, when he was having trouble forming words in his own words.
Yeah, you'll notice a professional host, Emac, that I just kept throwing it back to him and making him talk more.
I'm like, Spags, he's making his lineups. He's about to keel over, and you're asking him questions from chat. What are you doing?
I wanted to know where he stood on his stacks for the night. You got to make the payoff worth it, Emac. When people are doing there, he didn't throw up, he didn't die, he didn't keel over. So you got to make it worthwhile somehow. And Josh's suffering made it worthwhile. So thank everybody who tuned in. That we also set a viewership record for MLB Live Before Lock, which obviously really happy with on a Friday before a holiday. So thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for obviously being a community who kind of goes along with us for such silly things as a man eating pizza rolls to his own demise. But he is fine, thankfully.
Indeed.
All right, Emac, let's go through the slate here. And obviously, before you go through the slate, let's go first. Promo code Live Before Lock. Get half off your first month of any Awesemo.com package. All the ownership projections, the rankings, all that stuff is going to be there for you all holiday weekend for a bunch of sports. You get an all-sport package. Got WNBA going off. The ladies hitting the hardwood. Our boss, Awesemo, one of his passions, of course, supporting the women of basketball. So go check that out. Use the promo code, get an MLB package, get an all-sport package, whatever you want. It's all at your fingertips. Use that promo code Live Before Lock. All right, Emac, what are we doing today with the slate? I know we have one game which is not on the DK main slate, so that is one I don't have on my sheet. Do you want to take us through that one first?
Sure, absolutely. And I'm making some of my Yahoo lineups. They did post a tournament there that was actually rake-free for the second day in a row. It looks like they're back to doing that, but it filled quickly. So there were 1,500 people, and it's $3, 10 entry max, no management fee. And in general, their management fee is 12%. So you can check that out. They dropped it right after lock yesterday, so I'm assuming if they hold form, we'll see that again today. I'm going to drop the spotlight hitters and stacks article there into chat. Now, that one in the second paragraph does have the link and instructions on how you can claim your initial deposit bonus of up to $30 from Yahoo. You got to come in on our link and use the promo code Awesemo, and they will match in Yahoo Sports rewards points up to $30 of your first deposit, and those are available for immediate use. So let me get that there in chat. I'm making a few of my lineups there, and then I'll start to work on the crunches. As you mentioned, we just have 5 games on most sites, but if you're playing on Yahoo, and I think FanDuel has the LA and Pittsburgh game. Now that's one of the ones where we're. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's Yankees and Royals.
Sorry, I had the Yankees and Royals is what I really meant to say. So we have Chad Green going as the opener. He will probably be followed by Luis Cessa, or potentially, let me get my notes up, Nestor Cortez Jr. Now, on last Sunday when they did this, Cortez Jr. was the guy who came in, went 76 pitches there after Green. Green's probably good for 1 out and change. They had sent Nestor down to Scranton Wilkes-Barre there for, is it Wilkes-Barre or Wilkes-Barre?
Wilkes-Barre.
Wilkes-Barre, thank you. I've never heard it pronounced, even though I know it wasn't the office there.
It's like the wrongest way possible. It should be Wilkes-Barre or Wilkes-Barre or something like that, okay. But nope, just Bar.
Okay. There we are. So in any event, he was sent back down. He did not pitch in that time, so he'll be fresh. And then the other guy they had mentioned, of course, was Luis Sessa. Point being, they're going to have a lot of left righties there coming in. We do have lineups for both. Behind the dish is Austin Romine. Now, one thing I do want to point out here is Cleveland leads the league with 48 steals. This is heading into yesterday's games, so not counting the doubleheader. But they lead the league with 48 steals on 68 attempts. The White Sox and Rangers are the next closest teams, and they've gotten 35 of 46, so 15 behind, or 13 behind Kansas City, and then 15 behind Kansas City is Cleveland, 33 of 46. So Adalberto Mondesi is number 1 in the league with steals, and he is in the lineup. We do not have Billy Hamilton. Whit Merrifield is 9th in the league with 8 steals. And then I didn't see what happened in the first game, but Nicky Lopez, up into at least this afternoon's game, had not yet stolen a base, but he had averaged just over 20 in each of his first 3 minor league seasons, bouncing around on an upwards trajectory. And then before he came up from AAA a week and a half ago, he had 9 steals there. So he does have some speed as well. His price has ticked up on a few of the sites. He's no longer an uber value. But looking at this one, I'm favoring Kansas City because I think less people are going to go that route, especially with Baltimore and Colorado on the slate tonight. We'll talk about them soon enough. On the other side here, we've got the Yankees, and they're coming in with LeMahieu, Voit, Gardner, Torres, Kendrys Morales. Now, you can only play one on most side of Morales and Voit, but if you're over there, I need some salary relief on Yahoo. Morales is just $7. He's a switch hitter, so he'll be fine no matter who's coming in. Clint Frazier, and then Giovanni Urshela. Somehow he can hit all of a sudden, Spags. I don't know what's going on there, but he is... It's like magic, sort of like people forget, but when Francisco Lindor was called up as a rookie, he was all glove, no bat. Here he is, a magnificent hitter from both sides of the plate. Maybe Urshela is going to get a similar trajectory there, kind of out of nowhere. And then you got Cam Maben there at $12, batting 9th. The wraparound stack's intriguing because you can go Maben, kick out your catcher there for $7, LeMahieu and Voit, and get some nice power. So that's his one way to look at it. So I'm doing 10 entries into Yahoo. I'm stacking each side of this game, and then the bulk of my lineups are going to be Baltimore and Colorado. Keon Broxton, damn near going to be on everybody's lineup. He's $7 the minimum on Yahoo. He is batting what is he, 6th today. And then don't forget about Pedro Severino in Baltimore. He is, or in Colorado for Baltimore. He's batting 5th. He's 13. But that will get you off and running on your Yahoo lineup builds. Back to you, Chris.
Yeah, Gio, I think it's funny that you mentioned that Gio Urshela. I know Yankees friends who think that they shouldn't trade for Anthony Rendon or even Arenado if either were to be available because of how good Urshela is playing. I would say that might be a bit of a stretch. I think I'd rather have Rendon or Arenado, no matter the price, at third base. But that would be me. That's just me as a person who watches baseball, I guess. But I support the Urshela movement anyway. But let's go game by game, Emax. We have 5 games, and let's really luxuriate along the way. Hit that like button too. The support means a lot right now. I'm tired, guys. It's holiday weekend. We're here, so please, your support, your energy helps make us stronger as we go. Let's go with the first game, Emac, on the 5-game main slate. Obviously, you talked about the extra game here with the Yankees and the Royals. That'll be on FanDuel and Yahoo. We got Boston going into Houston here. Brad Peacock, pretty decently priced guy here, going against David Price, who also not at a bad price, and no pun intended. And
it always happens that way. It always happens that way.
I really don't try to be cute with the turns of phrase with names like that, but sometimes it just happens. And obviously the hitters here, I'm a little more intrigued by the Boston hitters than the Houston hitters, to be honest. I have some Price. I don't have any Peacock. And I have actually a decent bit of Boston bats because Peacock pretty bad versus lefties. And, Houston's park is not the best in the world, but still has some decent home run value, still has some decent park factors favoring it. The runs total here for Boston isn't great. So, if people wanted to go Peacock, I get it's 4 implied runs against them. But I think it's a spot here with some of the lefty bats at very cheap prices. Benintendi, Moreland. Moreland's a little more expensive. Even Jackie Bradley, who I think about a week ago, I really said, I don't want to play him anymore. I hate him. I'm so tired of having him. Now he's gone on a run. So I'm backing on Jackie Bradley while he's cheap and he's got a hot hand. He is sort of a streaky hitter, much like a streak shooter in basketball. So yeah, that's my sort of take on it. I do have some Houston as well. And, just because I have Price, I feel like it was logical if Price gets blown up to have a little bit going against him. But I would say I'm most heavily favoring the Boston Bats here in mini stacks. What are you doing with this game, Emac?
That's a good question. I haven't fully run my stacks yet, but I think I'm going to play a little on each side. Now, that's because on DraftKings, we just have 5 total games. You have Peacock and Price, who are favorably carrying their appropriate salaries there. We do have to have 2 pitchers on our lineup, so I think I'm going to dance a little on either side here. I'm not targeting hitters. I'm suspecting my stacks will come in as the 3-mans from this team, but I'm okay getting about 25% of each of these pitchers just because I think their talent level is that high. We've seen, I'm going to call up the, for some reason I don't have our, oh, there we go. I do have the ownership tab up. So Peacock has been getting a little more, less strikeouts than what we've seen in the past, but one of his issues was he never really went overly deep in games. Now, he'd spent time out of the bullpen, kind of as a swing guy, etc., throughout his career, but he's definitely fully ensconced as a starter. But the problem is a lot of times he doesn't go more than 5 or 6 innings because he just burns through his pitches. So there perhaps is some thought that, much like Chris Sale did a couple years ago, he's sort of pitching, they call it pitching to contact, but he's more or less okay with letting a few more balls go into play, not worried about striking everybody out, and letting the defense help him out in the interest of getting him into that 6th and maybe even 7th inning. So that's something to consider there, because we like the strikeouts. That's the currency of the realm, as I like to say in daily fantasy sports. But I just want to see where we have those guys for their popularity. So this is on DK. We've got Peacock is number 4 at 22%, and then David Price is 7th at 14%. So Price and Minor are 2 of the lowest. I'm not counting Dakota Hudson and Andrew Kashner because I really don't want to play either of those guys, but throwing that out there. So this is kind of to help me get my 150 lineups going. I will allow some of this to come in. If I was hand building like I am on Yahoo, not going to either one of these guys.
Yeah, they don't project well according to our projections at Awesemo.com, which you get with the promo code live before lock for half off that first month. Neither guy projecting for over 2x value returns right now. And, it's really on paper, not a great spot versus either team. I mean, really the hitters can make some trouble here, even if the pitchers have a good day. The hitters can do enough damage to maybe mitigate some of the upside. So I think it's hard, in a max 150, max 20, I think you can get there for a few lineups with these guys, but I really wouldn't want to force my way towards the pitching. And I think I'd be more inclined to take a shot on some of the hitting here because, Price can get blown up. His home run rate is above league average. And we talked about Peacock. Peacock gets just give people the splits. Matthew Protowell in the chat saying, lock in the Boston lefties. The logic behind that would be sound, at least on paper. Brad Peacock, going back to last year, has faced 200 batters who were lefties, 1.33 whip, 5.4 xFIP, 8.9 hits per 9 allowed, and a 6% home run rate, as well as 42% hard contact. So that's a lot. Whereas versus righties, Peacock is pretty much a shutdown guy, 13 Ks per 9, a 1.9 xFIP, which is insanely good, 1.1% home run rate. So, the righties here, I think Peacock should be able to handle for the most part, but even then, the righties are good too. So I'm just much less inclined for Peacock, but, the projections slightly favor him. So deal with them as you will. Let's go on to the next game, EMAC. We have Atlanta heading to St. Louis. Mike Soroka here gets 4.5 implied runs against him, which seems a little bit high given that he's been really good on the year. Dakota Hudson on the other side, pretty bad on the year. He's also got 4.5 implied runs going against him. I really got a lot of Braves today because Hudson, a guy not that doesn't grade out that well to me. I also got some Hudson too in lineups because he just kind of works price-wise, and that's sort of what happens with an optimizer. I did force him some Soroka, try to get some cheaper guys in there and get him in a few lineups because I do think he has good strikeout stuff. I think he has some opportunity here versus, Cardinals team actually doesn't strike out too much, 21% on the year, but still, he's a good enough pitcher where maybe he gets some movement, maybe he gets things working his way. And the hitting part, or the park rather, should favor pitchers here. So maybe there's an argument to be made for either of Hudson or Soroka. But I have Brave stacks. I have a little bit of Cardinals, and I also have a little bit of Soroka and Hudson. So, nothing I'm super enthusiastic about. I'd say overall, I'd probably favor the Braves out of all the options here. What are you doing, EMAC? What are you getting so far?
So Soroka is going to be a big part of my plans. He's on about a third of my lineups on Yahoo, where he's 42. DK, again, I haven't done those crunches yet, but we've got 45 minutes till lock, so we'll have some time for me to get to those. With regards to Hudson, I'm not really interested in him. He has a pretty elite ground ball rate. It's just over 60% across his 330 batters faced, relatively evenly split versus lefties and righties. Righties have almost a 70% ground ball rate against him, lefties at 53. The hard hit percentage is down around 30, upper 30s for each side. But again, most of these balls are worm burners, as they say. So his home runs allowed are nearly nil against fellow righties. It's a .041 isolated power across 160 righties. Lefties, different story. It's 214. But again, it's a little tougher to target against him. Now, there are 3 lefties in the lineup tonight: Freeman, Markakis, and the switch-hitting Ozzie Albies, who's batting out of the 9-hole there. I guess if they would have paid him more money in his salary, he'd have to bat higher, Chris, but little joke there on him signing for.
I was reading the chat and I just kind of nodded along.
I'm just checking. But in any event, I'm not a fan of Dakota Hudson. He'll be an okay pitcher, just because he's a ground ball guy. But I'm not looking to him this evening. I will cap him at 10%, somewhere between 5 and 10%. I'll do that with him, Cashner, and then I'll probably go. We'll get to Freeland. I'll probably go 15 or 20% with Freeland, just because I need the salary relief on the 2 pitcher sites to get in, or on DraftKings in particular, to get in the hitters that I'm looking for. But if I was hand building, I'd go nowhere near Hudson. And then again, on the other side, Soroka, pretty solid. What here to call up? Sorry, riveting. I know. Let's see. Soroka. I know his ERA is super duper low, which is why I don't want to misquote this. Yeah, it's 1.01 with a .87 whip. Wow, phenomenal. That's over 44 2/3 innings. He's allowed 5 earned runs, 7 total runs, just 1 homer. He has 41 strikeouts in 44 innings. If we look towards the guys going against him, you have Goldschmidt, who's I think he's 11 on Yahoo, which is pretty cheap. He's slumping just a little bit, but of course his track record is phenomenal against lefties and righties. Paul DeJong, a little bit interesting. Matt Carpenter's a guy I'm getting to where I'm not going with Arenado on Yahoo, because he is batting 5th and he's not going to slump forever. As well. So I'm taking some one-offs here against Soroka, but I'm curious to see where he pops up when I do my crunch here on DK.
Yeah, another guy, according to our projections, he just doesn't project that well for his price. So I didn't quite get there. The strikeout stuff really hasn't been there for him. He's been really good at limiting damage, like Emac mentioned. Only giving up 5.04 hits per 9 so far this year, but he's only getting 8.3 strikeouts per 9. And that to me is not a fantastic number for a guy who's almost at 10K on DraftKings. He is, though, not giving up a ton of fly balls. The same thing as I believe you said worm burners. It's a term which sounds like a different phrase depending on the time of day. I don't know what that means, but
well, you hit it hard on the ground. And
no, I know. I was making a double entendre joke.
Well,
different kind of worm burner in baseball.
Yeah, I don't know what they do out there in LA with you fancified.
That's when you don't wear your jock strap and you slide into home and.
Oh.
But yeah, not a lot of fly balls given up by Soroka. I think I really don't have a problem with him. I just think the upside maybe might not be there for his price. And there are some guys you can go to who, theoretically could tap a similar upside. So I didn't get there as much, but I think in terms of safety, I guess if you want to get a guy who I think has a low probability of getting completely blown up, I would say Soroka's that guy. The question is, does he get you enough strikeouts to balance it out? And versus the Cardinals team, it only strikes out 21.5% of the time versus righties. I feel like it's not a spot I'm dying to get to, but if it happens a little bit, I do have some Soroka and Ryu lineups just because I think those guys are 2 pitchers who can end up not in negatives today. And I don't know that I could say that about every other pitcher on the slate.
All right. Favor to ask here of chat, or you may know. Do we know when that? And this is the afternoon slate, but I have so many tabs open, and since I'm hosting on my computer here, I can hear the fan going overtime. Do we know if that Cleveland game is going to start up at some point here? That's in the rain delay.
I have not followed that closely enough to say other way. But chat, chime in. Chat. Oh, Texas lineup also just came in too.
Oh, good. good. Are we? What do we have? One more to go.
Okay. I'm excited to talk about this one because I'm like much of the people on the field today. You kind of have to have a lot of Tyler Skaggs. I don't want to get to the spoilers here, but I think Texas is going to be an interesting stack to have today, given the sheer amount of Tyler Skaggs that is going to be out there today in a positive home run park. And Skaggs giving up a ton of hard contact. This Texas lineup could be very important. That's what I would say.
Yes, I'm just looking here. Thank you from Premium Chat there. We've got 6:55 potential start. Much appreciated. I've just got so much stuff going on here. I don't want to hit the wrong button and crash the whole show because that's no fun. By the way, shout out to Ship My Money who has a new computer. And we still had a little trouble this morning, of course, because that's what we do here at Awesemo. But we got his sound worked out, and it was a deluxe version of the computer. So apparently he's finally putting some of his hard-earned ducats to work there.
Well, I too had to get a new computer last week, EMAC, because mine died. My battery died on Saturday. Thankfully, we didn't have to do a show. You had Jake that week. But yeah, my battery couldn't get swapped out. It would have cost me $500 with the battery and service plus 7 days. So I'd been offline for 7 days, not been able to work, which would have been not ideal. But I had to buy a new one. So I am like full stream right now. I could actually produce the show now, EMAC, by the way, which I'm still going to make you do it, but I
could. Fair enough. By the way, when you say Jake, I think we have to refer to him as the snack.
He's got too many nicknames. He's the baseball savant. Now he's a snack. But yes, you missed the stream yesterday. Josh's wife did in fact call Jake a snack, and Jake was looking cute. Honestly, out of Jake days, like I've seen Jake a lot of days, same as you, seen him on a lot of streams. I wouldn't say that was Jake's sexiest day. I felt like the Alfred Payton here wasn't his best look, but you know.
No, it was. It was there, but the fact that he turned red was pretty good there.
He did.
It was pretty good.
He did. He's, it's tough when your coworker's wife is coming on. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what the future holds for those two crazy lovebirds? Josh's wife and Jake.
Hopefully, Mrs. Engelman does not end up in Minnesota, or Jake does not end up there in North Carolina.
Jake, I agree. Not my sexy say. Thanks, Jake. I'm glad you're here supporting us. Look, that was a comment for you, Jake. Jake knows he's the handsomest boy on these streams. We support him fully. Let's go on to the next game. We got the Dodgers going into the Pirates here. Some rain expected, but I think we don't have any risk of postponement right now on our rankings. So we're assuming it's going to play and be okay. But I think it's
this just in from Alex himself on the Osmo Weather Twitter. He says the coverage is low enough that he thinks a delay may be possible, but a postponement is unlikely. It looks like the higher chance of rain is going to occur around 9 o'clock. So ideally, we get Hyun-Jin Ryu in for his 6 or 7 innings prior to that happening.
Okay,
so that second part was me adding it, but that's sure what I'm sure he's in.
Yeah, I mean Ryu's not going deep anyway, generally because of how the Dodgers approach his runs. But yeah, I'm still here. I'm not going to switch off of it. I have some Dodgers going against Musgrove. I also have some Musgrove. I also have some Ryu. And the team total here supports Ryu the most. He's got 3.5 implied runs against him, which is the lowest on the slate by far. He's also getting a matchup versus the Pirates team, who's pretty bad versus lefties with a 26.2% K rate on the year, just a 120 ISO with 73 WRC+. So they're not doing a lot there. They are showing some signs of improvement. Actually, Brian Reynolds has been kind of a beast versus lefties on the year, and 29 at bats, so a very limited sample size, but 370 ISO and a 6.9% home run rate for Brian Reynolds. So maybe some risk for Ryu, but Ryu's a guy who I think is going to get enough strikeouts, even if he does give up those home runs, which he does do from time to time. And I like the spot for him, but hard to get there unless you really go out of your way to force your way to Ryu. Obviously, Musgrove going to be much easier to get to, but he's going against a Dodgers lineup who is all lefties, and Musgrove is not a man who enjoys going against lefties, giving up a 1.3 whip, 9.9, actually close to 10 hits per 9, and only striking out 7 lefties per 9. So not a great situation for Musgrove getting a lefty-heavy lineup. The Dodgers here are going to have some ownership, EMAC, on DK. What are you getting?
Still waiting to do my run here, but I think they're one of the guys one of the teams that I do want to look at here, particularly because they just pack so much power up and down their lineup. Going over here and scrolling up to check out what they've got. Quintet of lefties up top here. Peterson, Muncy, Seager, Bellinger, and Matt Beattie are all going to be somewhat intriguing here. Let me get over and look at some numbers here so I can cite what our buddy Musgrove has done. So Musgrove is a decent pitcher. He's had some struggles this season, not quite on the trajectory that we had seen him for last year, but he's still averaging out to about a 100 isolated power. So he doesn't give up a ton of power, but this is a little bit of a lineup that's kind of scary. Now he is 6.8 on DraftKings, so there is going to be some consideration there. The Dodgers are carrying a 4.7 implied run total. I will probably cap him around 10 or 15%, so he's going to kind of be in my also ran category, because if you start trying to get Hyun-Jin Ryu in on too many lineups or Soroka, you're going to run out of the bucks to get the Baltimore and Colorado teams. Skaggs by default is also going to be very, very popular because of his price point. So it'll be intriguing how this plays out with them. But looking at Musgrove, I'm okay. I'd focus on those top 5 guys. Of course, Beatty and Bellinger are first base eligible depending on the site you're playing, but Bellinger does have outfield eligibility or dual eligibility on the site, so you can probably get a 5-man stack there if you so choose. Russell Martin, somewhat intriguing, 3,500 on DK. I think he's 7 or 8, maybe 8 on Yahoo, so if you're looking for some savings, he's not too terrible of someone to look at there. How old is Russell Martin?
Verdugo behind him too, I feel like, is people who just are not going to get to based on our ownership right now. We have him at 2% owned, and he's not as much of a power hitter as the other Dodgers, but he's close. I mean, he's a little bit under league average in terms of home runs versus righties, 2.4% home run rate, and the league average is about 2.9. But he's not a bad hitter. He's got some power, and this Pirates Park does actually give up a lot of doubles and triples, substantially more triples, 2.3 times the amount of normal triples in a normal park. So, there's a lot of ways you can go here. I think the Dodger stack showed some of their potential yesterday in the spot versus Musgrove, the lefty-heavy lineup. Could be dangerous for him. Any Pirates going against Ryu, given that Ryu is going to be so owned?
Frazier on Yahoo, just for the absolute salary relief. I think he's 7 or 8 over there, but he is the only one I've really got. I'm not really intrigued by anyone, though I will say Francisco Cervelli at 2,100 on DK is going to be helpful in getting some of those Coors Field hitters. I wouldn't even mind taking him against Ryu just because of that extreme salary savings. It helps average things out a little bit. Kind of it turns Ryu into a $10,200 pitcher, and you're taking a $3,100 catcher if you look at it with that lens. So I don't mind that.
Yeah, I think I honestly thought I would get there a little bit more because, Ryu he's at least league average in terms of giving up home runs, and hard contact is a 39% rate on the year. So I think there's some potential here for the Pirates, maybe if you're trying to leverage. Not a spot I got to, though, but I could see getting there. And Reynolds, again, a guy who just jumps out to me in a limited sample size. He interests me a bit there. And Josh Bell, too, has just been really good on the year. So I wouldn't hate going against them, but I didn't personally get there. So can't really advocate for it too hard. We're at about the halfway point of this show. So let's do home run picks now. And hopefully Jake is still in the chat if he wants to give one too. But yesterday, a big day for the home run picks. This is actually a first time ever. So we've been doing the home run picks since the site started over a year ago. And obviously it was mostly Josh, Jake, and myself doing it, and then occasionally Alex. So we would have 4 people do it. We've never before had 4 people pick a home run correctly on one of our shows. That happened yesterday. We had Josh correct with Eddie Rosario. I had Christian Yelich in a home run. Jake had Matt Carpenter, and Emac coming through the last horse through the gate with Steven Piscotty. How you feeling, Emac? You're tied for first place now.
I'm feeling good, especially when we looked at I've had about half a dozen less picks than the one Chubster.
well, 5 less than Josh. You've had 8 less than me and 10 less than Jake. Jake is currently the leader in amount of picks, but the low man on the actual amount of home runs. So his snackiness not unfortunately helping with the home run picks. But okay, Jake. Oh, Jake's pick is in, and he's going to Colorado. So we're setting the bar.
Wait a second, Jake.
Renato Nunez for Jakey Sunshine.
Okay, I think we can allow that one. That's not.
It's a Saturday weekend show. If we're going to allow Coors, today's the day.
It's not Story or Arenado, so we're good. I'm good with that one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I'll pick Arenado. You want to pick Story?
You couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better myself.
No, let's pick not that game. Or if you want to pick a Baltimore guy too, but I think I'm going to go outside that game. But you make your pick first.
Oh, geez, Louise. I am. You would think I would be better at this. I am going to go with. I'm going with Ronald Acuna.
Okay. I like
A
that
tough
pick.
one there against Hudson. It was for me. It was between him and Jock Peterson. Looking at the two of them, they're both going against pitchers that have a high frequency of ground ball rate. But because Musgrove has, as I mentioned, basically a 100 isolated power given up, I'm willing to roll the dice against Hudson, even though it is righty.
All right. I'm going to go. Oh, man.
I'm having buyer's remorse already, though.
Well, like I kind of want to troll your pick with Freeman because of the lefty matchup, but I just
That's
don't
where
love
I
the home
should have gone.
Yeah, he is a guy who does look really strong today, but so the park factors on that a little bit down, and I've been trying to go more towards positive park factors, but I'm still going to go weird. I'm going against Brad Peacock with my guy.
Okay.
And which lefty am I going to go with? I'm going to go. This is a tough choice. So Moreland gets less hits, but he hits more home runs, whereas Devers gets more hits but hits less home runs.
I'm going
Mitch double bags. Let's do it.
I would go with Moreland. He was on my short list as I was scrolling through. So,
all right. I'm firmly against Peacock today, so I'll ride with that. So the picks are in. Mitch Moreland for me. Jake has Renato Nunez, and Emac with Ronald Acuna. So those are the home run picks. Take them to the bank. Let's talk about this Baltimore game now that Jake has put us there. Baltimore at Colorado. Baltimore getting 5.1 implied runs in their favor. Colorado on the other side getting 6.9 implied runs. A very nice number, both in terms of social contracts that we have, and we have to say that with any sort of 6-9 number, but also just a really strong Vegas total to have. Going against Andrew Kasher, a guy who doesn't miss bats, gives up a ton of hard contact. All those things very problematic going into Coors. The matchup here is going to have a lot of ownership on the Rockies, not surprisingly. Also, a good amount of ownership on the Baltimore Orioles as well, going against Kyle Freeland, who's also going to have some ownership of his own. He's going to be very highly owned because he is super cheap and he projects decently at that price. I have a lot of Freeland. I have less Orioles, and I have a lot of Colorado Rockies. What do you have here, Emac, or what do you anticipate having?
A lot of Keon Broxton just because he makes things work and he's a cheap access point to the Coors Field extravaganza. I'm good with him. I'm good with Severino for the catcher just because he's batting fifth, so that is a nice spot there from the Baltimore side. I do somewhat respect Kyle Freeland. He's another one of those guys that gets a ton of ground balls, but he does allow more power than would be expected. Let me just get his numbers. It's since beginning of last season. Now, granted, he's been dinged up, so these are not. Oh, never mind. I'm looking at just this season. Let me set that filter. Since beginning of last season, he has low ISO, but this season he's been struggling. I think he is someone that we can live with on non-Baltimore lineups. If you're going with him, you definitely want to ride with his batters or start to look to the Dodgers or potentially, if you are on Yahoo, either the Yankees or the Royals. But if you're going to go with Freeland, use that savings to try to get a different stack. And I wouldn't even hate it. Just maybe taking one or two of the more popular Rockies, and then loading up on somebody else just to go for a swerve to set yourself apart from everybody else. A 5.3 implied run total. He could get out of there with 5 innings, 2 or 3 earned runs, and a handful of strikeouts, and that would be perfectly fine at his price point.
Also, one quick update in case anybody is tailing Jake Hari's home run picks. He is now acknowledging our no Coors rule, and he has switched over to Andrew Benintendi. So now we have 2 lefties going against Brad Peacock. So, tough cosign for Brad Peacock that such luminaries as Jake and myself are going against him.
Valid point.
Let's talk about this a little bit more here because this game is an important one.
Yep.
Anybody in Colorado that you don't want to have? To me, I have no objection to anybody. The only 2 guys under league average home run power are McMahon and Desmond, but Cashner's so bad, I really don't mind either of them, and the prices are probably to make them pop up a decent amount in projections. I'm going all these guys. I would say, obviously, I prefer Story. I love Arenado always. It would be nice if they had the lefty matchup because that is generally where they really excel, but still, I really have no issue with it. I think I actually have a pretty good spread of all these guys, maybe the least Ian Desmond overall, But is anybody for Colorado someone who you try to get less of, Mac?
I'm not really a fan of Chris Iannetta. I'm not a huge fan of Ian Desmond. He does pretty solid in righty-righty matchups, though. And as Adam pointed out on the DFS strategy show this morning, that Cashner is someone that's been giving up more righty power recently. So that would be the guy I would kind of not want that pairing. I think Desmond's just a little too spendy. I'm not a huge fan of Ryan McMahon on DK at his price point. I'd rather stick with Storydoll, Arenado, and probably Daniel Murphy, even though Daniel Murphy's a little bit dinged up or not quite as healthy as he was 2 years ago when he was at the full capacity of his power. One, anytime he played the Mets, and two, just in general for the Nationals. But he's been a little dinged up lately. He's kind of on the downward side of his career, but he's still a solid play. I'm just not as excited about him. The guys I really want to get, I think, would be Storydoll and Arenado.
Yeah, I think those are clearly the best plays here, though. I wouldn't mind Tapia. He is a guy who has a little more power than people realize, actually, versus both hands of pitchers. And he's got a 266 ISO hitting leadoff. I think the price means it's hard to pay almost $5K for Mel Tapia, but he has had some decent results there. The home runs actually, I feel like, should be a little bit higher given the isolated power that he's shown. And your points about McMahon and Desmond, I think, and Iannetta are all pretty well founded. Those guys, the WRC pluses for them are the worst on the team by a pretty decent margin. McMahon's got a 59 WRC plus, Desmond is 66, and Iannetta an 84. So all those guys under what you'd want them to be. Everybody else still pretty good, all above 100 WRC plus. So they are getting the production that you'd want to have there. Kyle Freeland on the other side, I feel like you may have talked about him, but let's just circle back about it a little more because I have so much Freeland and I really don't love it. But I guess you can make an argument for it because the Orioles do strike out a lot versus lefties. This particular lineup they have is a 27% K rate, and on the year they have a 27.4% K rate versus left-hand pitching. But Freeland not getting strikeouts at all. Missing bats a little better actually than he did last year. So you can make an argument maybe that he's been a bit unlucky. He's given up a ton of hard contact, 44% hard contact on the year, which is up from 34% going back to last year. So Freeland, is he a guy you're willing to trust? And I guess who would be your choice Orioles if you were going against them?
Yeah, Freeland I'm okay with. Again, I'm just getting the stuff loaded here. I'm working on my DK tiers, and then I will head on to get my full crunches going here. But Freeland's okay. I think I'll set him at 15%. Going against the Orioles, again, he has more of a ground ball lean. He struggled somewhat this year with power, but he's only faced, going off memory, like about 150 batters this year. So who knows what will happen. The Orioles are not as bad as they were at
240 Mac this year.
Pardon?
240 batters for Kyle
Freeland. 240, okay. But we've got the guys I'd want going against him would be Mancini, Nunez, and probably Severino as the better hitters. Keon Broxton just because he's cheap, but remember Broxton's never really put it all together, and he's kind of floating around in Cameron Maven no man's land right now. But those would be the guys I would look to. I will have a healthy amount of the batters of Birdland, but I will probably mix in more. I could see myself getting up to 20% Freeman, but I'll be running those crunches here shortly.
Yeah, I could see, honestly, I didn't get land on a bunch of Orioles naturally, I guess for whatever reason, I don't know. Our projections seem like they're decent for them. So I actually don't know why I didn't get there a bunch, but I didn't get there much. But the top five to me looks pretty good. Jake's would have been home run pick. Renato Nunez has a 5% home run rate versus lefties. We also have Pedro Severino, who EMAC mentioned, not a bad price at catcher at all, 3.3% home run rate versus lefties. The only guy under league average in that top five is Jonathan VR, and the price, it works enough for him, and he can certainly do some damage. And the bullpen, too, for Colorado, not anything to particularly be afraid of either. Their xFIP of 4.82 is one of the worst. Actually, it is the worst on today's slate. Actually, is it worse? No, well, it's tied for tied for second worst rather. So my bad. I forgot that Texas is also really bad too. So the bullpen can give it up. Freeland can certainly give it up. So I don't mind these guys either, and I probably should have more of them, but I don't. Let's go on to, oh boy, we're going too fast. Let's go on to the last game. And obviously, if you do have questions, pop them in. Questions about anything. It's a 5-game slate, and honestly, it's sort of a clear-cut slate in terms of how we're going to be approaching it. But if you want, also hit that like button, please. It helps us out a bunch here, especially, again, a weekend show. We're trying to keep the engagement up, trying to make sure we're doing everything we can for you guys. So please show a little support, tip your bartender, hit the like button before you go about your Memorial Day weekend plans. We got Texas going into Anaheim here. Tyler Skaggs going to be very highly owned. And he is a man who is very worrisome if he's going to be very highly owned. And the Angels on the other side going against Mike Minor. The park here for Anaheim, I'll just mention it because a lot of people don't seem to know this offhand or just haven't caught up to it yet. This park this year, a very good home run park, one of the better ones in the league, giving up about 1.5 times the amount of home runs that you would expect in any other park. And it's a nice situation here if anybody can make contact. And I think this Texas lineup can make some contact versus Skaggs. So I actually have a smattering of the righties and some of the lefties too. I don't mind Mazzara here because he does have home run power versus lefties. Same thing with Joey Gallo. Both guys, 4.3% and 8.6% respectively for those guys in terms of home run rate versus lefties. So I'm not scared away by them. And I think Tyler Skaggs, I'm there. I'm with Tyler Skaggs. I'm going to have a good amount of him. But he is the worrisome part of this slate to me. But Emac, what are you anticipating doing here?
I am going to make sure that I do have Texas because I'm going to a fair amount of Tyler Skaggs. I'm following the masses on this one. It's just coming down to price on DK and the fact that we only have 10 pitchers to choose from, and 2 of them are going in Coors Field. He is checking in at the number 1 pitcher right now at 46%. I'll probably cap him at about 50 and see what happens, but I will definitely earmark probably 5% of my lineups to try to get 4-man stacks there from Texas, just as a hedge against Skaggs, because it can go sideways. You mentioned the park factor is improving there in Anaheim. If I remember correctly, it was the right field fences that they lowered about 10 feet from about 18 or so to about 8 to 10, and that has helped increase the home runs a little bit more there. We still, of course, have the vaunted marine layer. It's going to be 64 degrees at first pitch. You've got a slight breeze at 6 to 7 miles an hour blowing out to dead center. That shouldn't really affect a ton. So not, the hitting environment of environments, but definitely much better than it has been previously. So that's something to just take note of. Skaggs does not get a ton of ground balls, checking in at, that was just this season. I keep flipping back and forth. So he's in his career, pardon me, let me calibrate here. Doing too many things at once, Chris. So well, far to the beginning
on a Saturday, especially too much brain power required.
Yeah, the beginning of last season till now, he has a 42% ground ball rate, which isn't horrible, but it's not great. 35% fly ball rate, that's up there a little bit. The hard hit rate at 41% becomes a little bit concerning. He actually does a little worse from the power perspective against fellow lefties. We do know that most of the Rangers lefties are solid against fellow lefties. Joey Gallo actually has better power numbers against lefties than he does righties. Now, he's got immense power and he's boom or bust no matter what. But I would like to take him over his last 233 at-bats. Nomar Mazzara has a 200 isolated power. Hunter Pence getting a bit of a resurgence this year. He's going to be batting... Oh, did we get that official? Oh, yeah, we have that lineup. He's going to be batting 3rd. He is close to a 200 ISO. So those are the guys I'm looking towards going against Skaggs. Logan Forsythe used to be a guy that we would take against Southpaws all the time, particularly when he was with Tampa. He has resurfaced a little bit this year, but he's still kind of a scrap heap guy and not as good as he once was. You can use him at shortstop on DraftKings. He's 4,000, so I don't hate that. I think most people will try to cobble together the additional funds to get up to Trevor Story, but I think he's an adequate pivot at what should be low ownership.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't have him in my initial lineup. I think he wasn't in the projected lineup on the site that I used to get them initially. But I think, his price, not the worst either. And dual position eligibility, definitely a positive. And yeah, his sample size going back to last year, pretty bad versus lefties. He's only got a 0.075 ISO and a 0.5% home run rate. But this year overall, he has been hitting better. He's actually been getting on base at a 410 clip and also a 300 batting average. So maybe he's shown some improvements. I mean, same thing you mentioned for Hunter Pence too. If you look at his longer term sample size versus lefties, not the best. But this year he's got a 156 WRC plus and a 7.9% home run rate. So I think these guys can pay dividends if Skaggs does go south, but he projects extremely well. I think he's the best value pitcher according to our projections at Osmo.com. So look, I'm there. I get it. How about the other side, D-Mac? I got Mike Minor. I have some Mike Trout, and actually Mike Trout was in consideration for me for my home run pick. I just wanted to go with all the best hitters. Yelich yesterday, Mike Trout today, but went a little outside the bag for that one. But I think it's a good spot here for some of the righties. I think Trout, Pujols, Lucroy, I could see doing as many stacks. Those guys can hit home runs here. And again, positive home run park. And Minor does give up some power, both to lefties and righties, but righties he's weaker, I think, across the board against. I don't mind the Angels here. Like I didn't get there a bunch, but mostly mini stacks. I have some Rengifo who's cheap, and I think I might have one stack with Rengifo and David Fletcher because both guys are cheap enough to make some stuff work. But what are you doing with the Angels and with Mike Minor?
So Minor's really improved a lot this year, or he's putting together what's probably going to be a career year outside of his fourth year there with Atlanta. On the season through 64 innings, that's 10 starts. He has one complete game shutout. He's got just 19 runs allowed, 2.64 ERA, 1.13 whip. Those are all good numbers. He's got 67 strikeouts in 64 innings. Now, the thing you want to remember is that the Angels, I haven't looked in a couple days, but they actually have the lowest strikeout rate against both lefties and righties in the league, and it is significantly lower than anybody else, as in like 2 or 3%. So they're
15.9% on the year, okay. And then and this particular lineup has 17.9% versus lefties.
Okay, so that is a little bit worrisome. We're paying full price there for Minor, but again, as we've mentioned, we've got 10 pitchers and 2 of them are in Coors Field. So you're going to have to look for some relief that's not going against Boston, that's not going against Houston, etc. So that brings Minor back into play, in my opinion here. I'm just getting ready here to run some of my 4-4 crunches, so we'll see where he comes in. I've got. Let me see. I'm going to match the field with whatever he is at for my initial run and see what I get for my stacks. So that looks like it will be... Oh, he's 10%? Oh, I'm going to go higher than that. I'm going to go 20% on him just for my initial run here and see what that grants me.
Yeah, he's projected for 11% ownership right now, according to our projections for DraftKings. So 20% would be a decent cosign on him. It's hard for me to pay that price in this matchup. As you mentioned, the Angels don't strike out. They also haven't shown a lot versus left-hand pitching. 79 WRC plus, 145 ISO, 210 batting average. So they haven't been that good versus lefties. So you can make an argument, to go with Minor. The thing with Minor, though, if he has problems, if he gets rocked early, the Texas bullpen is really bad, giving up 9.4 hits per nine, 4.9 xFIP, which is the lowest on today's slate officially, 7.4 Ks per nine, and also just not getting swing strikes, not getting guys to chase. So if he gets knocked out early, I think you could see a lot of production for the Angels. So I don't mind the Angels as a stack. I did get there more for mini stacks rather than full stacks, but it would be helpful if you had that full lineup and to confirm, I guess, who's going to be in there so but I think there's some opportunity here.
I'm sorry to talk over you. I'm guessing it's Ohtani that they're deciding on.
Okay. Yeah, Ohtani. So I'll just mention it again. I'm actually just going to keep mentioning it on shows for now. So Ohtani's just come back from injury, just not a lot of power, not at all, like across the board. 109 ISO since he's been back this season. He's still getting some decent results. He's still got a 91 WRC plus, still a 3.2% home run rate, but not the guy from last year so far. And, as you might expect after you have Tommy John surgery, even though you can hit, you got to assume there's some sort of limited mobility or something there with the fast switch fibers. It's not quite there. But I would just note when you're playing Ohtani, and I think his price reflects it, his price is down because he's not getting the results. And that could turn around, certainly. And hopefully it does, because I like him as a hitter, and I really would like to see him get back to what he was last year. But the results just haven't been there for him. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that, because it's kind of disappointing so far.
All right, I'm pushing this crunch button. Let's see what happens.
Yes, drum roll, please.
Yeah, it's going to be a pain not having that Angels lineup, but that's okay. We can still maneuver around based on what it is. Again, I don't think... What's the projected lineups we've got? I think it's Ohtani that's not going to be in there, but that $3,700 price tag, if you need to pivot away from him, let's look at a few outfielders here while this crunch is running in players that are in those later games. So we can get, you can go to Keon Broxton if you don't already have him in your lineup. And then you can also go to, you could go to Fletcher. So you'll have some wiggle room if needed. Brian Goodwin is also 3,700. So you do have some outs there if you're doing some crunches and you end up with the Ohtani. You've got some ways around.
Somebody in the chat saying the Angels lineup is in. It is
just
not in.
Came in.
Oh, is it? Okay. It hasn't been updated yet. Oh, but I guess it might have just gotten updated and they haven't flipped the switch yet. But yeah, Dustin Garneau coming in for Jonathan Lucroy would make him less, or would make Jonathan Lucroy not playable, would be my guess, not being in the starting lineup. So note that accordingly.
Yep, and that's not that big of a deal because I did not have him. So
I did have a little Lucroy, so I'm gonna have to get my.
Ohtani is in there. All right, so he's batting third, so we don't have to worry about that. But Goodwin's not in, so I'm just gonna re-hit my crunch here.
Just so people know, Dustin Garneau's stats. He has had 2 at-bats versus a lefty so far in the majors, and 184 WRC plus in those 2 at-bats. So if he keeps that up forever, he will be the best hitting catcher in the league. So keep that in mind when you're making your lineups.
All right. Looks like my 4-4s, I'm getting half my players are coming from Colorado.
You know, honestly, I could see playing Garneau now. He's so cheap. Like that's a little bit of an interesting move. I'm intrigued by Garneau at that price.
So 2,700 on Cruncher. Make sure you click him as active because he'll come in as grayed out. Just pro tip there. Not that I have pro tips, but.
Oh, you got all the pro tips. That's why you're the office hours guy, Mac. You got all the pro tips.
That's right. We've got that tomorrow. We'll be doing that at probably about 3:00. And let me see what the schedule is here for baseball tomorrow. We'll have a 3-game slate there that we can talk about. We can talk about lineup cruncher. We can talk about NASCAR. We can do whatever anybody wants, but I'll be holding court there. It's been kind of fun. We've had some more robust Sunday slates, so we've spent the time discussing afternoon strategy, how to utilize the Osmo tools. That's something we talk a lot about. We talk about various settings in Cruncher, etc. So it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. Definitely check that out if you guys are around. And in premium, one last reminder. Go to my Twitter page. I'll drop this link in chat. We have the Fred Van Elite Fan Club contest, giving away a free 1-month subscription, all access Osmo pass here. You got to go to join the DK League there by going to my tweet, clicking on the hyperlink, get in that Osmo DK League. That's where we're putting in all the links and alerts for the contest where we were giving away extra stuff. The requirement is I have to play Fred Van Vliet. You guys, if you win, you better have an Osmo avatar, and that's it. $1 to enter. There's 2 spots left, and top 10 are paid out, plus the additional bonus prize.
How did that initially begin, that you had to play Fred Van Vliet every time?
Oh, I was trying to have some fun to engage people when we were back at FanVice and get them in and have fun in Slack. And that was back when Van Vliet was not god-awful. He was actually...
Well, now he's good again. He's resurging.
He's been good for 2 games, Chris. 2 games. Has a baby, all of a sudden he's good. Or his significant other had a baby, and now he's good.
Did you hear the reason why too? He was like, I couldn't sleep, and I just thought about like how nothing matters. Like, yeah, I've been there, man. I can't sleep. I'm on the same page.
I had not been aware that was the results, but there you go. Yikes! I'm coming in down under the wire here, so let's make a couple lineups. I better get a cash lineup in too. Apparently, those are important.
Is Freeman? Oh, can't get to Freeman. Dag nabbit. I'll tell you what, this Garneau move from Lucroy, like if Garneau's even okay, which, unclear, but if he has an okay day, he's a pretty decent price change from Lucroy. It really opens a little bit. It's not enough up at pitching, but hitting wise gives you some better options. So I'm intrigued by this situation here. I've converted all my Lucroy. I apparently had 20% Lucroy, and now I have 20% Dustin Garneau. So
that would be a lot. Yeah.
Let's see. Reading the chat. Best Rocky hitter, Van Dam NYC is asking. Let me double check that. I'd probably go Story here because he's a little bit better versus righties than Arenado, but I can never really go against Arenado. I just love that dude. Whenever I can get him in a lineup, I'm very happy to have him, but I think I would favor Story, maybe Dahl, but because he's a little bit cheaper, but it would be Story or Dahl for me.
Sorry, panicking here.
No, it's fine. Anybody worried about the Dodgers-Pittsburgh game being postponed? Zach, check out the @Osmo Weather handle on Twitter. The boss man projects that the game should be able to go off or should be able to exist. Coverage is low enough that I think a delay is possible, but a postponement is unlikely. That is the buzz on the streets from the Osmo Weather account. But follow it. It's Alex himself running it. His dad is a meteorologist. He's tapping into all the collective DNA brain power that he has. So it is a helpful asset. Also follow at Osmo Odds. They did a really good job. I want to help support our social media team because they were bringing odds for that pizza roll challenge yesterday for Josh. And that's our sports betting handle. There'll be more content there. You may even see some stuff from me coming out on the odds side of things soon, hopefully. But go check that out at Osmo Odds, at Osmo Weather. Two of our better little side handles here that are doing well. So check them out.
All right, my 4-4s are done. Now I got to do the 5-3s, which are always a little slow than the 5-0s.
Anything noteworthy in your 4-4s?
I'm getting a lot of Colorado, and I'm capping out at 30% of Freeland.
Okay, that's fair. This T asking in the YouTube chat, what do you think of Musgrove and SP2 on DK? Do you think it's worth it from an ownership point of view?
I think it's okay. It's a tough matchup. I think in tournaments it's fine. He does not give up a ton of power, but he's playing an incredibly power-packed lineup that is in a park that tends to favor the pitchers. So I'm not against it at all. But I am not getting a ton.
Yeah, I'm a little scared of it. I do have him as an SP2 in some lineups. So, I think you can get there, especially on a slate like this, where you have guys like Skaggs, guys like Freeland who are going to be highly owned. Maybe Musgrove doesn't get that blown up, but he's been getting blown up more than I kind of thought he would this year because he misses bats well. He does some nice stuff, but he doesn't have a finishing pitch. He doesn't get guys out and doesn't actually strike them out. And this Dodgers team just good enough versus right-hand pitching. And as Emac mentioned, has some dangerous power here. Guys like Muncy, Jock, Bellinger, obviously, as well as having a monster year. All those guys can really smack him around. And the park factors are getting a little better in Pittsburgh. They are a little bit above league average and everything. And again, a lot of doubles and triples there too. So even if you don't give up home runs, you can't give up some power that can be dangerous and maybe get some extra base hits. So I'd be much more inclined for Dodgers than Musgrove, but I get it. I get why you would.
Yep, I am getting him at 15% on my 5-3s. Why are these not running?
Oh, cute dog specs. Thank you, C. Column. I appreciate it. My other dog, who's not on camera right now, it's actually her birthday. So everybody wish Penny happy. She's a 9-year-old girl. Come here, Pen. Penny, come here, birthday girl. Come here. Come on. Stop being lazy.
Let's see. I'm getting Musgrove, but he's capping out at 15%. I didn't want to go more than that just because I don't see a lot of upside with him, but I need him to maneuver in more and more Rockies, which is what I have done. I've now got my lineups. Now I just need to sort them and get them uploaded, which is always the fun part. Here, Chris.
I've got a birthday dog coming over, just slowly working her way over here. Come here, dog. While Emac does his crunches, entertain the people. Oh, there we go. Yeah, here's Penny. Here's the birthday dog. With her ear all fucked up.
Ooh, looks like there's going to be 5% Dakota Hudson in my life. I'm ending up with about 40% of my lineup is going to be various Rockies. And let's get this uploaded. Not nearly as much Baltimore as I'd expected, but a lot of Keon Broxton. I do have a fair amount of, there we go, I'm in. I do have a fair amount on Yahoo just because he was the minimum. I'm guessing a ton of people are going to go there. We lucked into the home run last night, but remember, he's basically been abandoned by a few of his believers at this point. So just your mileage may vary. He's cheap enough that we can go to him, though.
Okay, yeah, that works for me. And we are 2 minutes away from lock, by the way. So go get your lineups in, start going with it. Get all your Dustin Garneau lineups in there. That's all you can ask. We got tagged. Oh, Seth, your boy Seth Emac asking, would you go Yonder Alonso or Paul Goldschmidt for a FanDuel GPP?
I would go back into a time machine and take Hunter Renfroe. That's what I would do.
I assume that's an inside joke lineup choice, but I know you and Seth is one of your better trolls. You guys seem to have a fun time with that.
It is. That's all the way back from the RG days. So we used to talk, it used to be Goldschmidt, Alonso, and then I would pick secret option C. That wasn't one of the choices. So today it's Hunter Renfroe, who's one of my favorite players, and Seth now is cringing that I got to mention 2 home runs and a stolen base from Hunter Renfroe today.
Ooh, that's a nice day for Hunter Renfroe. Good for him. All right, we got we also got an update here. El Negro Loco posting into the chat on Premium Slack, and of course, the Premium Slack included with that promo code Live Before Lock. Start of Dodgers Pittsburgh will be delayed due to rain Saturday. Still expecting it to go according to Osmo Weather, but we are in a delay, which is not unexpected by Osmo Weather handle. So Even if it's in a delay, should hopefully clear out enough to get that action in there. And if not, it's Saturday. Who cares about losing money on a Saturday? It doesn't count.
Yep. So question in chat here, they're asking if I do 150 lineups. So I actually run about 300 to 350, but I play in all sorts of the low dollar contests, meaning I go into the leagues, I go into triple ups, 50-50s, quintuple ups, the 59, 118, and 259 or whatever it is on DK, and I just treat that as if it's one big giant mini max. And because the payout structures are so much better, so I run a third of my lineups 4-4, a third 5-3, and a third 5-0. I do not have a sophisticated ranking system like most of our other guys do, but I'm also not playing in the giant contests that have such poor payout structures. I probably play 200 or so each slate in baseball. So, I mean, not an insignificant amount, but I've just been having a lot more fun. I enjoy the strategy of building out this stuff here. I try to see what Alex and Jake and Josh and Adam are doing. This is something that I started doing last year. And it's kind of a new territory for me, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I generally don't have massive win days. But more often than not, my losing days, I usually only lose somewhere between 20 and 40% of my buy-in, so it's a little more palatable. And you just feel generally better about it. So I may only win, most days that are winning days, I'll win 20 to 50%. Then I'll have some good days. And then all it takes, I've gotten my ass kicked in golf the last 2 weekends where I've lost, about $400 of my 500 I put in. And it just takes, a week to make that back up based on the volume I'm playing. But I'm enjoying it and having a good time. For NASCAR, I usually play about 200 to 400 a slate. I use the Osmo tools and projections to do that. That's a fun one. And then NHL, I've been using the Jacari projections and really got into those after the All-Star break when I hosted a few NHL shows, the NBA All-Star break. And I think I'm converted and playing a ton there for NHL. And that was one of the sports I used to like a lot because back when NBA used to only do 2 games on Thursdays, I would play NHL and then I'd play it on Saturdays usually as well. But I've been playing every day of the playoffs actually, and it's been a good time.
So get all your sports like EMAC is doing. Use that all sport pass or that all sport package at awesemo.com. Promo code LIVEBEFORELOCK will get half off that first month. And we are locked now. So anything else we need to hit on before we go? EMAC, any plugs for what you're doing tomorrow or on the holiday or whatever you're doing?
Josh and I will be on the DFS strategy show / sort of a live before lock, but not up till lock. I'm assuming we will start, we're not going to start any earlier than 10:30. We won't go any later than 11. He always wants to do 10, but I usually get him to compromise at 10:30. So we'll post the time on that. You are going to get Fast Eddie Fear. He's going to be going live here shortly to talk about the basketball. I think basketball tips off at 9:30. No,
8:30. Yeah, 8:30 Eastern time.
So check that out. And that's about it. Again, go to my pinned tweet. Get into that Osmo DK League. We're going to keep running these things throughout the playoffs. And if we can get critical mass, get 500 or 600 people in there, we will run larger contests and transition over to baseball where I will do silly things like play crappy stacks or crappy pitchers just to help pay the rake for you guys.
That's very kind of, very generous of all your old pal EMAC. So tune in, watch EMAC this weekend. Go join that tournament now. Go to EMAC's Twitter at EMACDFS so you can go join that contest right now in DraftKings. As EMAC mentioned, Fast Eddie's coming up in a little bit, so keep your eyes peeled on the channel. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. You'll know when he goes live. And we'll be back with more stuff soon. I'll wish you all a happy Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, thank you to everybody who's serving out there. Thank you everybody who has family, who's perhaps sacrificed themselves for this country. It is a weekend where you need to remember that a little bit, even though you are having fun, having your beers, having your American domestic light beers. Just remember the people who did make that possible by giving themselves up. So please do that. Enjoy your weekend. Hit the like button on the way out. We shall see you again soon. Good luck.
All right. With that, gamers.